Here's a really interesting story. And it's not about British politics, it's about German politics. It involves the Alternative for Germany party, the far-right AfD, rose from the ashes in some ways of the Nazi movement. And certainly I think the invitation to Nigel Farage to speak to them a few years ago was issued by the daughter or the granddaughter of a senior Nazi. They've done some research into what supporting them does to your mental health almost. And it's really interesting. It's the first time it's been sort of established that switching to the support of a far-right party, in this case the AfD, might have a direct and sizable impact on voters' satisfaction with their lives. It is part of, in its simplest terms, the idea is that lurching to the far right makes you less happy. There's a real chicken and egg here, isn't there? Because you always imagine that people who are attracted to the lazy othering of far-right politics, the hatred of homosexuals or foreigners, people with different coloured skin or people from different countries, and somehow being persuaded to blame them for your dissatisfaction. You always presume that the level of dissatisfaction must already be quite high to make you susceptible to that sort of propaganda and rhetoric. It turns out we may have got this a little bit wrong. I don't know what tempts you there in the first place. If it's not dissatisfaction with your own life, it could just be simple fear of the unknown, I suppose. Simple and genuine, if you like, fear of the other. But when you get there, you become less happy. Partly, one has to presume, because you are exposed almost ceaselessly to negative rhetoric about the country's decline. The number of Twitter accounts I've stumbled across since Elon Musk bought the platform that just detail tirelessly and endlessly, like an infinite doom loop of crimes being committed by people who aren't white. And the whole point of these accounts is to persuade people that everybody who's not white is a criminal or a threat. And that, I think, is how you get to a place where somebody called Leslie Lilly, who is running as a candidate for Nigel Farage's party, has been talking about his desire to kill people arriving in a small boat in Dover. It's comments reportedly from his Facebook page. I hope I'm near one of these scumbags one day. I won't run away. I'll slaughter them, then have their family taken out. Did he start off miserable, hate-filled and unhappy, or did he become miserable, hate-filled and unhappy after he signed up with Reform Limited and sent his subscription fee to Nigel Farage's party? I don't know, but I just couldn't help seeing the story about Germany in the context of what we're reading today and what we're learning today, and indeed, thanks to this remarkable investigation by Channel 4 News, what we're hearing today about Reform Limited, because we've been here before. We were here with UKIP. I can't remember whether we were here with the other party. The name temporary eludes me. The one he set up that wasn't UKIP. Then he stood down all the candidates so that the Tories could win all the constituencies. And what was that one called? Was that the Brexit Party? So UKIP, the Brexit Party, Farage Fans Unite, Farage Only Fans, was that one of them? Only Farage Fans, Only Fans Farage? I forget. But anyway, whatever that one was called, I can't remember whether it happened with that because they weren't really around for long enough. But it's the term of Reform Limited now to sort of belch an almost unending avalanche of bigots and prejudices. I suppose you'd begin with the story from about 2 weeks ago, maybe only 3 weeks ago, which found that about 1 in 10 candidates for this outfit were friends on Facebook with a man who's trying to sort of resurrect Oswald Mosley's British Union of Fascists, the so-called new British Union, calling for a fascist revolution. I mean, listen, we've all made friends with people on Facebook, perhaps without doing due diligence and the proper amount of research, and 1 or 2 candidates signing up to this clown's outfit would perhaps be unfortunate but forgivable. But when it's 1 in 10 of your entire roster, then the question of what is it about Nigel Farage's party that attracts fascists has to be a question that we turn our attention to. Inevitably, because this fella, Leslie Lilly, also described the COVID vaccine rollout as a crime against humanity. So you've got a selection of people who who will believe anything. Which brings us to the Channel 4 stuff, which was broadcast last night, this extraordinary interview or extraordinary undercover footage featuring a character called Andrew Parker saying things that I saw at least some supporters of Farage this morning saying that you'll hear in any pub in England, apparently you'll hear people describing Rishi Sunak as the P word. As you know, if you listen to this programme on a relatively regular basis, I spend quite a lot of time in pubs. I can confidently say I've never heard anybody use the P word. I suppose the only way you could state with absolute certainty was that people use the P word routinely in pubs, is if you're the person that routinely uses the P word in pubs. Most pubs would get you barred, that kind of behaviour, not least because increasingly the hospitality sector is being propped up by people from the subcontinent. But this chap, Andrew Parker, is on a website somewhere touting for work as a film extra. Or as describing himself as an actor. There's no evidence anywhere that he's ever done any work as an actor or earned a crust as an actor. Perhaps he has, I don't know. But the kind of people who believe, as Leslie Lilly, this candidate, believes that the COVID-19 vaccine rollout was a crime against humanity, will absolutely believe that Channel 4 found an actor on a website and that you could discover just on a simple Google search and decided to pay him to pretend to be a racist in the hope that nobody would actually notice that he was really an actor. So conspiracy theories are already out there. Where racism leads, conspiracy theories always follow. And we haven't even scratched the surface yet, really, because we've got the bloke from the BNP who has been chucked out of the party, although it's hard to see what he subscribes to, that the 41 people who are friends with the fascist leader on Facebook would also subscribe to. This is a character called Raymond Saint, who was on that list of British National Party members that was leaked in 2009. You also had that attempt by Farage to pretend that somehow these are working class values, or racism and bigotry are working class principles, somewhat conveniently overlooking the fact that Oswald Mosley went to Winchester College. So, you know, the idea that racism is confined to the lower orders is not only racist, it's also incredibly snobbish. But on we go. Here is Andrew Parker, the activist in Clacton, where a full list of candidates is available at lbc.co.uk/candidates, being filmed secretly by Channel 4 News in a programme that was broadcast last night. What you need to know about this, or what I think you should really focus on, is the fact that he is supremely comfortable sharing these views in the company of anybody else who's signed up to canvass for Reform Limited. So even if you hold these views, and I can usually judge by my inbox that I still have a few people listening who do subscribe to these views, you wouldn't say them to people that you just met. You know, even the days, and I love the London taxi trade, but the days of getting into the back of a London taxi and setting your clock by the amount of time it would take the driver to say something horribly racist, even those days are over now. When I first moved to London years ago, that was a relatively, not by any means tarring the entire cab trade with this brush, but it was a relatively common occurrence on the subject of immigration that a taxi driver would say something to you that was pretty grim, actually. Let's not beat about the bush. But these days it doesn't happen. You need to be supremely confident that you're in the company of people who will either share your prejudices or be untroubled by them. And I don't know what it is about Nigel Farage's various bandwagons that creates this atmosphere that allows people like this to think that because they're all wearing the same rosette, because they're all members of Nigel Farage's OnlyFans, they must also be perfectly comfortable with language like this.
I know Nigel.
Oh, do you? Right.
Yeah, I met him in a restaurant in London.
Yeah.
About 2 years ago. He's rung me a couple of times, I've texted him. I've always been a Tory voter, the Thatcher days, annoys me big time. They've just become the same as the Labour Party. There's we got in. What's good is he? All they're interested in doing is taking over, changing everyone to be a Muslim. You see, what the Islamics want, and it's horrendous really, is sick, mate, sick. It's a cult. Look, I tell you what, if you don't know about Islam, it's the most disgusting cult out. Emphasise illegal, especially if you open the door to a bunch of you've got D11 here, and a place near Dover, army recruitment. Get the young recruits there, yeah, with guns on the beach, target practice, just shoot them.
And then you have another character, this one called George Jones, who seems to be quite a close ally of Nigel Farage, sharing his views on, he's in fact described as a senior aide. He was in UKIP and the other party. He's been in all three bandwagons. And he had some interesting things to say about both people who are not white or indeed police officers showing support for gay rights.
You see that degenerate flag on the front bonnet? What the old Bill doing promoting that crap? It's about catching nonsense, not promoting. Our police officers will be paramilitaries, they won't be police. We're going to bring back the news.
Bring back the news, conflating homosexuality with paedophilia. And there's more. There's always more. But the question then becomes, and one more thing that's really interesting. Actually, Hope Not Hate have done some great work in this field, showing that various truly far-right organisations, Britain First, Patriotic Alternative, Homeland, all urging, and even little Tommy Ten Names, who's currently, of course, holed up in Canada, I think, all urging their supporters to vote for Nigel Farage's Reform Limited. So what is it about Nigel Farage that attracts so many racists? 0345 6060 973. Something quite interesting happened when Richard Tice made way for him, is they stopped chucking people out of the party. Hope Not Hate Hope Not Hate's a wonderful organisation, the founder of which is the guest on this week's Full Disclosure, Nick Lowes, just an amazing listen. You'll remember the recent ITV drama showing the work they did in preventing the assassination of a member of Parliament, a crime for which somebody is currently serving decades in jail. What changed? They stopped chucking people out, and when Hope Not Hate started doing the kind of vetting and due diligence that you'd think the Reform Limited might have done themselves, they started under Tice. They started chucking people out of the party, and a lot of Farage fans started complaining. It was really interesting. They were furious that people were getting chucked out of the party for saying racist things, or for being bigoted or prejudiced or overtly Islamophobic or homophobic. They were furious. They were sort of accusations that Hope Not Hate was running the party. So one big change since Richard Tice, and I don't know about you, you could almost feel sorry for Richard Tice if he wasn't such a flan. But the difference in the party that he was trying to construct in a vaguely respectable way compared to the party that Farage presides over, where he doesn't really chuck these characters out. He just makes excuses for them or pretends that they speak for non-public school educated bigots. It's absolutely fascinating. So, first question is, what is it about Nigel Farage that attracts so many racists, Islamophobes, and fascist sympathisers?